So after William Codner carved a grave like this, he probably would have displayed it at his shop in Boston. And when Captain John Crowninshield died in May of 1761, his wife or his children probably visited that shop and hand-selected this one from all the other pre-cut graves on display. Or perhaps they simply wrote him a letter requesting one of his better graves. But at some point, he was provided the epitaph information, and he would have drawn up a layout that says the following. Now, once this was approved and the price negotiated, usually stonecutters were paid per letter, he could then transfer this to the stone itself. And that's what we're going to be doing now. He would have had a chisel, he would have had some rulers, and he would have been creating score lines. For a writing tool, Codner would have used a white crayon or sharpened soapstone, which shows up very well on slate. He would then proceed to write the letters within the score lines, and it would have looked something like this. Codner's letters are easy to spot. Perhaps his most identifiable trait are his serifs, which always arch upwards like crescent moons. The bowl of his A's didn't connect to the stem. His O's were always snipped by the score lines. The R's have a significant curl, as does the F, and the arm of the T looks like a pronounced trumpet. Codner's W's slightly cross in the center, and his Y's have a graceful swirl to them. Unfortunately, if you compare photos of the grave pre- and post-casings, you can clearly see that someone has recarved every single letter. And by overlaying the two, you can see just how badly the stonecutter butchered Codner's original letters. When we flip back and forth, you can see how clunky the letters became. He managed to completely remove all the grace from them. Just such a sloppy job, so insensitive to the spirit and elegance of Codner's original letters. And it's such a shame there's no trace of the original hand left. Codner had such an elegant style, and this stonecutter came through and just bulldozed through every line. And believe it or not, this isn't the only grave where letters were recut. If you look at Frank Cousin's photos around the cemetery, you'll see many graves where the letters look brighter than others. These are the ones that have been relettered. From the look of it, there must be over 20 or so. I'm not sure who the stonecutter was, but he is responsible for significantly altering the original epitaphs. Take, for instance, the grave of John Crowninshield, carved by Salem stonecutter Levi Maxey Jr. Notice how all those delicate serifs are gone, how heavy that crossbar of the H is. Samuel McIntyre's grave is another victim to this stonecutter's insensitive chisel. The grave was carved by another Salem stonecutter, Benjamin Day, and despite his incredible carving skill, this is what happened to his letters. All of the thin, delicate lines are now far too heavy, as if each letter has been inflated with air. Anytime you see really beefy-looking letters like this in the bearing point, it's a sign that the grave was probably relettered. For the headstone of Richard Moore, the stonecutter not only relettered it, but also added information, such as a very questionable date of death and Mayflower passenger inscription. So, as I recut John Crownenshield's grave, it's an opportunity to restore the letters back to how they originally looked. I'm taking great pains to make sure each individual letter is faithful to the delicate touch of William Codner. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And to support future content, please consider donating to my Patreon, Stones Over Bones.